Bataan is a province situated in the central Luzon region of the Philippines. Its capital is the city of Balanga, while Mariveles is the largest local government unit in the province, occupying the entire Bataan Peninsula on Luzon. Bataan is bordered by the provinces of Zambales and Pampanga to the north. The peninsula faces the West Philippine Sea to the west and Subic Bay to the northwest, and encloses Manila Bay to the east. The Battle of Bataan is famous in history as one of the last stands of American and Filipino soldiers before they were overwhelmed by the Japanese forces in World War II. The Bataan Death March was named after the province where the infamous march started. The first inhabitants of the Bataan Peninsula are the Atamagbacon people, who are one of the first Negrito ancestors of present-day Filipinos. Later on, Tagalog communities from southern Luzon migrated to parts of Bataan, and the Atamagbacon migrated towards the mountain areas of Bataan by the end of the 16th century. In 1647, Dutch naval forces landed in country in an attempt to seize the islands from Spain. The Dutch massacred the people of Abuque in Bataan. Historian Cornelio Bascara documents that the province of Bataan was established on January 11, 1757 by Governor-General Pedro Manuel Arandier out of territories belonging to Pampanga and the Corregimiento of Mariveles, which, at that time, included Maragondon, Cavite across the Manila Bay. Bataan featured prominently during World War II. Prior to the 1941 Japanese invasion, Bataan was a military reservation for the purpose of defending the fortress island of Corregidor. The U.S. Army stored nearly 1 million U.S. gallons of gasoline there, along with various munitions. At the southern tip of the peninsula, the U.S. Navy had established a small base at the port of Mariveles. Shortly after the Japanese Army invaded the country in December 1941, the combined U.S. and Filipino forces were being gradually overrun, and General Douglas MacArthur moved his troops to the Bataan Peninsula in an attempt to hold out until a relief force could be sent from the U.S. Japanese forces started a siege of the peninsula on January 7, 1942, and launched an all-out assault on April 3, a few months after the Battle of the Points, Battle of the Pockets, the attack down Trail No. 2, and a half-dozen other brutal battles. The Bataan campaign was the last time a regular cavalry unit of the U.S. Army, the Philippine Scouts 26th Cavalry, was used as a horse-mounted fighting unit. On the morning of January 16, 1942, Lt. Edwin Ramsey led the last cavalry charge into the town of Moron, routing the advancing Japanese infantry. As the troops on Bataan were continually reduced in rations, the horses were eventually slaughtered to feed the starving soldiers. The majority of the American and Filipino forces surrendered on April 9 and were forced to march more than 100 kilometers from Bataan to Capas, Tarlac, which became known as the Bataan Death March. The province has an area of 1,372.98 square kilometers and its surrounding mountains, separated from Mount Summit and the Mariveles Mountains in the south by a pass. A narrow coastline plain characterizes the eastern portion of the province, while the western coast features many ridges, cliffs and headlands. Bataan is administratively subdivided into 11 municipalities and one component city. The population of Bataan in the 2020 census was 853,373 people, with a density of 620 inhabitants per square kilometer or 1,600 inhabitants per square mile. The demonym for natives of the province is Batano. The three most prominent ethnic groups in Bataan are the Tagalogs, the Kapampangans and the Atamagbacon, though the third group has a lower population despite being the province's first inhabitants. The second group is mainly present at the northeast of the province, as well as in the provincial capital to a lesser extent. Various religious groups are subscribed to by the people, but Roman Catholicism is the predominant religion, comprising 85.46% of the Bataan population. Several other Christian and non-Christian faiths include Iglesia Ni Cristo and other groups. Bataan is a location of bulk power generation, where most of the power generated is sent to the Luzon grid. Most power plants in Bataan rely on fossil fuels, like oil and coal, but renewable energy sources, primarily solar power, form part of the total generation. The total output of existing power plants equals to 2068.1 megawatts. And new power plants to start operation will increase the output to 4224.1 megawatts. Fossil fuel-fired plants account for 2020 megawatts and are mostly concentrated in Limay and Marawells. These include the GN Power Marawells coal power plant, with 660, and Panacea Bataan combined cycle power plant will increase the capacity by 1936 megawatts. Renewable energy, primarily solar power, accounts for 48.1 megawatts, and is concentrated on the northern part of the province. Existing renewable energy power plants include